Hi, welcome to Straight Talk with Ghita. So today I wanted to talk to you about why men and women fight. So it's about conflict and sort of unpacking how it happens. So some great questions to ask yourself if things aren't going smoothly between you and your spouse. So here's the first one. Okay, so what do you think your partner should want from you? It's a really good question. What do you think your partner should want from you? Ask yourself, are you giving them that? Are you giving them what you think they should want from you? Actually, you can both ask that. See, we often make assumptions about what the other person's role is and what, their needs are. Or we don't actually think about what their needs are. We just think about what we're willing to give them. So, they're really, really, really good questions. Sometimes shoulds are really revealing. They tell us what our programming is, what our assumptions are for that gender, what the other person wants. And we might be really, really wrong when we do assumptions. We've really got to ask them the question, what do you need from me? Obviously, it's the golden question, always, what do you need from me? And their answer may be very different from what you think they're going to say. Sometimes they just want safety, sometimes they just want, you to lean in and notice their efforts and give them some love and kindness. So, how do you ask for what you want? This is really interesting because often it determines whether or not you're going to get what you want just by the asking, the way you ask and the tone that you ask with. In fact, we have to be careful that we don't assume that we can't have what we want before we've even sort of got it out of our mouths. We have to be careful that we don't assume that they won't listen. So the best ways to ask anyone for anything are the following. I need you to ... Take the bin out. I would love it if you would take the bin out. And the best one, which has probably got 100% hit rate, is it would make me happy if you would take the bin out. Now, obviously, that kind of sounds like something a wife might ask a husband, because certain chores sort of have, become traditionally one gender or the others. So, but the way you ask, the tone. If you say something like, "You never take the bin out," well, that's blaming language. It's already throwing in an assumption that they're not going to do it because they haven't done it before, and it's focusing on the negative, that things that they haven't done in the past. So it's really throwing somebody under the bus straight away. All right, and assuming things in what you're saying, or it having no particular, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or an answer almost written into the statement. So statements are not questions as well. That's just like you've decided that's how it's going to be. So you're better off saying something along the lines of, hey, it would make me really happy if you'd take the bin out. Anything you can do which is positive is going to obviously get a better result. So I also want to talk today about primal gender currencies. Now, what are they? Well, that's sort of how our brains are wired. So we've only had sort of marriage for like 2,000 years. And before that, it was more sort of hippie, free-for-all, so there wasn't so much marriage as, you'd be with somebody for a while, propagate the species, and then wean that child, and then maybe move on to somebody else. So our brains are kind of more wired for propagating the species than for a 60-year marriage, you know. So that's something to think about. We haven't really changed, we haven't really evolved. Unfortunately, we can fly to Mars, but you know, our brains are still wired the way they're wired, and they're wired for survival. Crazy, yeah, but it's still the same. Yeah, so a little bit more about gender currencies. I've done a diagram, I show this to my clients, and it often makes a lot of sense. It's not exactly new age or feminist or anything like that, but it is based on research from anthropologists combined with couples counsellors such as Esther Perel, and I've just put it in a diagram, so I'm just going to grab that for you. It explains a lot. So the things that we need from each other based on two genders. All right, so we've got, let me see that. So I've put them in pyramids because that shows that the bottom of our pyramid is the largest bit that we need from our partners. Obviously, we need other things from our partners, but these are sort of the baseline things that we need from each other. So for women, it's safety and protection. And that is emotional safety, physical safety, financial safety, communication safety. Now, communication safety is a really big one, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So when we're not getting our needs met, we get this, we get conflict. Often one person will throw out a bid for connection and the other person will reject it or something like that, and then you've got conflict, and it happens really fast. So the bottom of a man's relationship pyramid is admiration and praise, and I think respect is sort of tied to that. So when they get the opposite of this, when they're no longer hero, they basically withdraw. They'll either defend or avoid. So if you give them criticism, condescension, contempt, you know, tone, things like that, they literally recoil, and a man will either respond defensively or he will avoid altogether. So that makes a woman feel even less safe because the communication's gone off the rails, and so that they're more likely to chase the partner down the hallway and say furthermore blah 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 and pour another log on the fire, and the guy's probably running out the door. So it's very, very quick that it can go off the rails, and it generally starts with a bad bid for connection, often from the woman, and the guy not giving her any safety and protection. See, so when our needs are not met, we get this, we get conflict. So if you understood that chart, you might be saying, so Ghita, why is it like that? Why is it that we're sort of not designed to understand each other properly? Well, let me tell you a little story, and this is what they've figured out. So, like I said before, our brains haven't really changed since we were sort of like cave people. So imagine there's a little village, and it might be somewhere in Africa or somewhere like that. And in this village, the men have to go away hunting because this is something they have to do all the time. So the men go away hunting, and they go away for days at a time, and they're together with each other, and they barely speak to each other for long periods, signaling each other on hills, basically only coming together to maybe, you know, sharpen their tools or harden their spears in the fire or something like that, and then they go away again and try and herd these, you know, antelope or whatever into some sort of gully where they can spear them and bring home the meat for the tribe. So while they're away, they don't do a lot of talking, and they really are about trapping, hunting. They're running on adrenaline. They're really thinking on their feet. They're like little project managers trying to, you know, get the best result for the least effort, obviously. But they often are running and trying to chase these animals. So while they're away, the women and the children of the village, you know, are left alone, basically, and they have to forage and prepare for when the men come back. Now that's just women talking to women and looking after children. And so how well the women people pleased and got along determined where they were on the pecking order and how close they were to the fire, whether or not they had any mates. And if they didn't have any mates and a saber-toothed tiger walked into the village, then oh dear, you know, there go your children or whatever else. So it was really important that the women got along really well with each other and had safety numbers and had lots of mates. If they didn't, they were in trouble, basically, and their offspring, you know, might perish. So it was really, really interesting that women developed these really, really complex social systems and this amazing wiring in their minds to make sure that they communicated really well and got along with everyone. So, you know, quite complex kind of brain neuron connections. So we're still the same. We still need communication. When we don't communicate well, that is a sign to us that there's danger. So it's still tied to our primal survival instinct that we need lots of mates. We need to get on with people. We need to communicate well. When we don't communicate well with our partners, our alarms go off and we freak out. I mean, women see danger everywhere. I mean, pretty much everywhere. It's crazy how much danger we see everywhere. But we're the nurturers. We're the ones that have the children. So this is why it is the way it is. Men so not so much, which is why you've got jackass movies, you know. So they're not designed to communicate. And if you know a man that's really good communicator, then that's amazing, because they're not really designed for that. They're designed to hunt and to bring home the meat for the tribe, which is where I guess bringing home bacon comes from. But look, when the men did come back to the tribe and the women and children would come running, and they'd pretty much get like an amazing welcome and a ticker tape parade. And then the men would go from adrenaline to getting oxytocin and dopamine in large amounts. So, you know, they would get lots of love, they would get lots of appreciation, admiration and praise. Now in the traditional marriage, at least a man would get the wife and children coming running when he came home from work. So for, you know, many, many years in the traditional marriage role, he would at least get that admiration, praise and respect when he got home from work. Nowadays, in the modern world where everybody needs to chip in to pay the mortgage, nobody's getting their needs met, basically. Men are not getting the hero welcome. Women feel like they're doing it all and doing too much. They have to work, they have to look after children, they have to look after the home. They often take on more than they should take on because they literally feel that they should be superwoman, and then they get resentful that they feel like their partner's not carrying their weight, and the men no longer get the admiration, praise and respect that they used to get, and so they wonder why they're going to work at all. So, you know, you get a lot of resentment on both sides, and nobody really knows what to do about it. But I think that just sort of knowing what we're wired for helps a lot, because then you can sort of say, okay, well, this is what my partner needs. We have to really sort of work that into our marriage. We have to make sure that we give each other what we need. I mean, if you don't get what you need, obviously, what's the point of being in a relationship, right? So you want to be able to get what your needs are. And a lot of people... Anyway, if you have any questions about that, or you're thinking about, seeing a couples therapist, have a look at the pages on ghitaandersen.com. There's a lot of information about couples counselling. I've also got a lot of resources and free ebooks, and there's some videos on YouTube. Okay, so I'm signing off for now, and until next time. Okay, bye for now.